Aaron Rodgers, I was wrong, is something that I'm not ready to say yet. Rodgers was great versus the Jets. Okay, 22 of 30, 244 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, a 136.7 rating, which was second best in the NFL in week 1. And let me just say, despite me not being like the biggest Aaron Rodgers fan, it was cool to see him go back to the Jets and get a revenge win. Like, it was the classic LeBron goes back to the Cavs on the Heat, dominates, talks shit afterwards. Same thing when KD went back to the Thunder. Same thing when Luka went back to the Mavericks, stuff like that. It's cool seeing that kind of villain arc, and then Aaron Rodgers coming through and talking a little bit of shit afterwards. Love to see it. And he obviously played well. I mean, got the ball out extremely quick, 2.43 seconds, third fastest time to throw in football this weekend. And his average air yards, completed air yards, was 2.8, tied for the fewest this weekend as well. So a lot of short and quick game to prevent him from getting hit, which makes sense because he's old, and old quarterbacks do not want to get hit/sacked. However, I do have some concerns for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Aaron Rodgers, despite not wanting to get sacked, got sacked 4 times. The running game, 20 carries for 53 yards. That's not going to get it done very often, and only 271 total yards of offense. So it's not like they were moving up and down the field like the 34 points would suggest. Rodgers may also not have played as well as the stats lead you to believe as well. He was the 28th graded quarterback this weekend per PFF with a 54.5 overall grade, and was the 26th in passing grade as well. And I'm not a PFF merchant myself. I don't necessarily agree with those numbers. I think he was much better than those PFF scores dictate. But I do agree with the fact that 34 points scored was not indicative of how Rodgers and the Steelers offense played. For context, ESPN's QBR stat had him at 62.6, which was 15th best in the NFL. I think that was more accurate. I would even bump him up a little bit. I think he was around the 10th best quarterback in football last week. But still, okay, not nearly as indicative of the 4 touchdowns, no picks would say he played as far as that goes. But the defense performed just as bad as you might think based on that 32 points from the New York Jets. They gave up almost 400 yards of total offense, 180 yards on the ground for a defense that everyone told me would be top 5 this year. So I know Steelers fans in the comments are going to say, we did all that and still won. And that's fair, okay? And there's room for an improvement. After a performance like that, you walk away with a dub. That's a good thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I could also say the game turned on that Gibson fumble on the kickoff return, and then without the Chris Boswell 60-yard field goal with a minute left, you probably lose. So there's a lot of things to be concerned about, especially considering they were playing a team that everyone besides myself thought was going to finish last in the AFC East, and the New York Jets. So in conclusion, through one game, I have been wrong about Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. However, it's just one game, okay? We got 16 more of these bad boys to go, and I'm not yet ready to handwrite an apology to the old man just yet. But Joe, I'm going to kick it to you. What do you think? Do we already owe Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers an apology? What do you think about their game on Sunday?
I mean, the running game is a question. I expected, Jalen Warren to do some snaps, and Caleb Johnson, 1 carry.
Crazy.
He gave the guy 1 tote. After, I thought he was going to be in contention for RB1 stuff. He only got 1 tote. To your point, they only ran the ball 20 times, high scoring game. You talk about the defensive side of the ball. Justin Fields looked damn good out there. 218 yards, 60 of 22, 1 touchdown, 9.9 average. He had a 79.4 QBR, to your point. And realistically, are we really even talking about possibly apologizing to the Steelers if Jalen Ramsey doesn't absolutely just jar Garrett Wilson on that 4th down try? I mean, what a play, Jalen Ramsey. But that's what the Steelers do. To your point, it was nice seeing Aaron Rodgers sort of turn back the clock. Granted, if he had thrown 4 touchdowns back in like 2017, 2016, he has over 300 yards. To your point, he only has 244, 4 sacks. You kind of look at that, you're kind of questioning it right now. And honestly, the sacks are probably some of the things that drove that QBR down, to your point. However, I don't think I owe Aaron Rodgers an apology. I did say, hey, towards the end of the year, he kind of started to click. If that's the guy they get, that's manageable. And that's the guy they got. And it's manageable. If you can get 73% completion percentage, no turnovers, a couple negative plays here and there, and eventually the running game gets going, the Steelers are going to be good. The biggest concern right now is the running game is not there. It hasn't been there since Najee Harris's 2nd year in the league. You got to figure out if Caleb Johnson is the guy. He looked really good in preseason. That stiff arm of where you sent Travis Hunter to the shadow realm is still in my head to this day. Jalen Warren is obviously not it. I expected Jalen Warren to be over the passing game back, which, this is kind of a shootout game. Maybe that's why Jalen Warren was on the field a bit more. But even then, Jalen Warren only had 2 receptions for 22 yards. So, one of those was a touchdown, to give him that. we were wondering what DK Metcalf was going to look like. He performed 4 for 83, 20.8 a clip. Calvin Austin, there's a freaking surprise. That guy jumped out of nowhere. Pat Freiermuth wasn't really effective, but they passed the ball around a lot. Jonnu Smith had 5 receptions for 15 yards, but he got a touchdown. So I'm on the fence as well. I don't think that, I'm sold on this. The Steelers are still going to be the Steelers at the end of the day. The Steelers are still going to do the things that we expect them to do. And at the end of the day, we're going to be talking to them probably about a 9-8. Because to your point, the Jets were not supposed to be good. They weren't. Justin Fields, we're like, but hey, Aaron Glenn, buddy, culture is there. That is a culture-esque team. And all you got to do is clear up some secondary stuff.
The Jets should be very excited after what they watched on Sunday, because again, we haven't really seen Justin Fields behind a good offensive line, and this is the first time that they had a good offensive line. And you watch Fashanu on the left side, you watch your boy Membu on the right side, Joe. Those guys were dominating. They played very, very well from the tackle positions, and it kind of helped them overcome the loss of Vera Tucker as well on the interior. So I talked about them being a run-heavy team. They're going to run the rock more than just about any team in the NFL, and they ran for 180 yards. So again, the New York Jets have a lot to be excited about. But as far as the Steelers go, Joe, I mean, they play the Jets, so I'm not going to take things too seriously. If Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers go out against the Seattle Seahawks defense next week, is who they have. If they go out against that defense, which in my opinion is one of the league's best defense, they put up numbers, they score another 30 points, Aaron Rodgers throws for another 4 touchdowns. I'm going to come back in here, we're going to have the same discussion, and I'll tell you, I'm even more wrong than I was this week. Like you said, they're going to need to establish the run next week. They use Kenneth Gainwell way more than I think anybody in the entire NFL universe thought they were going to use Kenneth Gainwell. And again, like you mentioned, I don't think the lack of use of Caleb Johnson was shocking just based on how Mike Tomlin and some of the other guys in the Steelers offense were talking about Jaylen Warren. But it felt like Johnson would get a little more run. Like, you don't pick a running back that talented in the 3rd round and just give him 1 carry. To me, it was kind of bizarre that they gave him that little run. And 2, if you can establish the run game, Aaron Rodgers is going to have leeway to work play action. And we saw the play action game work really, really well on Sunday for Aaron Rodgers. He was 6 of 8 on play action passes on Sunday for 75 yards and 3 touchdowns. So 3 of his 4 touchdown passes came off of play action. That's the most touchdowns on play action in a game for him since 2016. So prime Aaron Rodgers play action is what it looked like on Sunday for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. 20 of 25 for 196 yards and 3 touchdowns from a clean pocket versus 2 of 5 for 45 yards without that clean pocket. So again, if you can give the old man some time to throw, you can give him a clean pocket, he can still dice you up. And that's the same thing that we see with a lot of old quarterbacks. Same thing when Tom Brady was aging. You saw him when he was aging, he could still dice you up. He just didn't want to get hit anymore. So he would dirt a lot of balls. He would throw a lot of balls away and make a lot of balls uncatchable. Next week versus the Seattle Seahawks, if Aaron Rodgers comes through, that's when I'm going to be like, okay, I'm taking these Steelers for real. However, until then, I want to see a little bit more from Aaron Rodgers in the Steelers offense before I really commit to them as a whole.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.